All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And good evening, everyone. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and we're coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on Classic 1220 and streaming on classic1220.ca. If you'd like to send me an email, the email address is xzone@classic1220.ca. I'm always eager to get your emails. If there's a special guest you'd like us to bring on, if you have questions that weren't answered by our past guests that we had, just send me that email. Love getting your comments, and hopefully we'll be able to solve a few problems that you might have. My guest this hour, Exonation, is Von Braschler. He is an author of several books on consciousness expansion and has published books on everything from time travel to lucid dreams, thought power, out-of-body travel, ghosts, and energy healing. He is a former member of the Omega Institute for Holistic Studies in Rhinebeck, New York, and has led workshops throughout the United States and the United Kingdom. He is a former award-winning journalist. Currently, Von lives on a small rustic island in the San Juan Islands, just off the coast of Washington State near Vancouver, BC. Joining me now is Von Braschler. And Von, welcome back to the X Zone. Nice having you with us.
Thank you, Rob. It's so kind of you to have me back. I've been on the show, but a long time ago.
Yes, and as it seems that more and more people are interested in the topics that you talk about, dreams, past lives, time travel, and consciousness, than ever before. More and more people are asking these serious questions. And to what do you attribute that to, Von?
Well, I think that these are the gateway to the important questions. Who am I? Mm-hmm. Why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing in my life? What is it I'm supposed to remember? And how do I get on with doing what I'm supposed to do here? I think these are the big questions. And all of these are like salad dressing to addressing those questions. Now, I didn't pick any of these topics that I write about. They just seem to come to me as they come to everybody else, that these are the topics that we need to focus on.
Von, what started you on your quest into all the topics that you are interested in? What happened in your life?
I thought I had a normal childhood, but I guess I didn't. I came back from the first grade, and the kid across the street said, "What do you mean when you stood up and everybody was supposed to say where they were from originally, and you and you cited a planet that I've never heard of?" And I said, "I don't know. It just came to me." I guess I've always been kind of a little out of sorts. I've had a lot of odd things happen to me, even at a young age, that seemed hard to explain at the time, and now that I'm older, I can see that it was always kind of like, as I like to say, spirit guiding me. I had a lot of people along the way that kind of led me and then disappeared. Strange people would come into my life, and strange things would happen to me, even when I was a youngster, really.
What was the strangest thing that happened to you as a youngster?
Yeah, I don't know if I talked about this when I was on your show last. It was a while ago, Rob, but I was like, I think 11 or 12, I think it's 12 years old, and all of the kids in the neighborhood were fascinated with this yellow school bus. And it wasn't a school bus, and it was an old beat-up thing on the side that said, "Pickers Wanted." Well, they had berry fields, and they wanted kids to come and pick berries. Well, I had no real interest in picking berries, but what I heard was there was a nice river we could go and sit along and dip in and swim. during lunch hour. Well, I thought lunch hour was as soon as I got there, and it extended throughout the day. And as far as the berries, I was all for picking the berries. I just ate them all. I think I turned in one box. So anyway, I'd been there a little while, and I got very, very sick. And someone said, "Oh, you swam too much and ate too many berries." And so I went and talked to the man who ran the bus and said, "You've got to take me home. I have a terrible pain in my stomach like I've never felt before. I think it's serious." Now, I don't really get. I'm one that keeps his pain to himself, so but he didn't know that. And he said, "Oh, you wait, kid. We all go home at the same time." So then I talked to the man who owned the berry field, Mr. Behringer, and he said, "You wait till the bus leaves, and we'll take you home. Don't worry. Just sit down. You don't have to work anymore." Well, I felt really sick, and I told my friends that I noticed that the railroad track we ran across when we came onto the berry field, every day we would come across and run all over this railroad track. And I said, "If I just followed these railroad tracks, it'll take me to my home." And they said, "Oh, no, 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 no." I said, "No, it stops in front of my house." Well, I started to walk, and I got halfway out of their vision, and then I started to go around a bunch of overgrown bushes along the track at a curve, and I could no longer see them. And I took one big step, and everything got dark. And then the next thing I knew, I was in front of my house. And I stepped down from the railroad track, which was very high up. I remember that. I went into the house, and I flopped on my mother's bed. And when she came in the room, I said, "You've got to take me to the doctor." She said, "Oh, if you're sick, just lie down. I'll get you some 7-Up." I said, "No, I don't want 7-Up. I'm really sick." She said, "Well, just relax." So she waited till morning, and she called our family doctor, and he was golfing, of course.
Of course.
And he said, "Well, take him. The way you've described it, it sounds like appendicitis. And you take him to the hospital, and I'll be there as soon as I finish the back 9. I'll never forget that. And when he got there, my appendix had already burst. But of course, I survived, luckily. And I got to the hospital none too soon. Now, the odd thing about this story, Rob, is that the railroad tracks don't stop in front of my house.
They don't.
No. So the next year, I'm out in the backyard, and everybody says, "How did you get home, and how did it all happen? That you got home just in time, and how did you find your way home? Because the railroad, how did it?" And I would say, "Oh, I don't want to talk about it," because I couldn't explain it. It didn't make any sense to me, so I just blanked it out. And frankly, I think this is true of a lot of people that have odd or paranormal activities happening to them, things that they can't explain, things that are unknown to us. And in this case, the next year, I looked out, and I had to admit that there were no railroad tracks, indeed, that went in front of our house, nowhere near our house. But a year later, we moved north of that city, and the railroad track did cross in front of our house, just as I had seen. It's a strange story, and it's like, so, I tried to explain what had happened to me, and how this happened, but it seemed to me that it was very mystical, I
Right.
mean, I had absolutely folded time and space, because when I got there, it was dark, but it all happened like in a flash, like in a second. And I was instantly home. And then here's the thing, these railroad tracks, they go all different ways. People that notice railroads, they don't follow, lines like highways or roadways. They don't go to everybody's house. It's not like a bus line. I mean, in our case, they went along the river and along the bay, and we were halfway in between the river and the bay. And so it's really odd that I would think of it that way. But I was so confident that I would be home that I was home, But when I got home, it was much later in the day. It should have been like afternoon. So I think I'm one guy who's actually stepped out of time and space and never gotten back those 3 hours that I lost.
You've led a fascinating career. You talk many subjects. Time and space, consciousness, and it seems that one of the topics that you do a lot of talking for is about dreams. And
Yeah.
I read somewhere that you said sometimes a dream is more than a dream. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, we have a way of looking at dreams in our society today that they're just like memories
Yeah.
that were flashing through our head. They're like things that are of concern to us. And this is true of a lot of low-level dreams. These are dreams of a restless night where you're not totally asleep. Your analytical mind, your brain is certainly not fully asleep. It's still grinding away at concerns of yesterday and worries about tomorrow and things that you want to resolve today. But even when you were wide awake and worried about it, we're not able to do. So you continue grinding away at these problems. And so we have these dreams where we're reliving experiences or we're going through different scenarios. Very often we play an odd role there where we're all the people. We don't really see the people. And these are like black and white, sketchy, kind of bizarre, surreal experiences. These are not real dreams. I mean, they are real dreams, but they're not lucid, vivid, meaningful, impactful dreams. So what I'm talking about when a dream is more than a dream is when a dream is in color, it's lucid, it's vivid, it has great personal meaning to you, it's maybe prophetic, it analyzes, it solves a problem, it maybe takes you somewhere beyond time and space, where you're an active participant and fully conscious. This is the most important thing. You're fully conscious of being there. So I always encourage people that when they have a dream like this, try to find yourself and recognize that
Mm-hmm.
you're there in that dream and own the dream. You know, the, typically you say, well, look at your hands. Well, you don't physically have hands. You'll have maybe like an astral kind of outline of something like a physical body that's like an etheric, ephemeral body, and it will be a presence where you are there in a subtle energy body, or actually a full armor of many subtle energy bodies, probably everything but your physical body, while your physical body is very rested and safe and peaceful, and shut down, lying in your bed or on your sofa. And this can happen also in a daydream. It could actually happen when you're walking down the street if you're not careful. You could have a lucid dream practically any time, you know.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about when a dream is more than a dream is you go back thousands of
All
years.
right, let's talk about the ancients because the
Yeah,
dreams
yeah,
played
yeah.
a big part in ancient civilizations and rituals. Exonation, my guest this hour is Von Braschler, and Von and I will be back on the other side of this break as the X-Zone continues right here from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, streaming worldwide at www.classic1220.ca. Are you a skeptic or are you a believer? Always send me your replies. Xzone at classic1220.ca. We'll be back shortly. Don't go away.
Hi, this is Michael Bolton, wishing you all the very best this holiday season and in the coming new year.
Why can't every day be just like Christmas? just close my eyes again. Climbed aboard the dream with a chain. Driver, take away my worries of today and leave tomorrow behind. Oh, dream weaver, I believe you can.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the X1. I am Rob McConnell, coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, streaming around the world at classic1220.ca. Vaughn Braschler is our special guest. And Vaughn, before we went to the break, we were just getting into the ancients and the significance of dreams in their, their society as well as in their everyday life. And I was wondering if you could take us back in history and give us an idea of how important dreams were to the ancients.
Oh, very important. For 3,000 years, they've been trusted by kings and visionary leaders in their most critical situations. And so we're just now beginning to study them as psychologists and medical science look at these dreams. But the dreams have been treated throughout time as divine revelation, prophecy, windows to the soul, really. So it goes back like 3,000 years, like I say. And it goes back to the ancient city of Sumer, the area that produced Mesopotamia, Assyria, Babylonia, all those cultures, Acadia. And they believe very much in dreams. Kings in Mesopotamia, for instance, they derived their guidance from their dreams. And they believed in them. The Sumerian king, Gudea, he rebuilt a temple like 2000 BC or so, from instructions that he received in a dream. And from this period, we also have Gilgamesh, the Epic of Gilgamesh, in the Akkadian epic. And Gilgamesh, he described travels to other realms and his personal meetings with deities. And then we have the Assyrian king who built a temple to the god of dreams, and that was around 850 BC. The Assyrians, Babylonians, that likewise, they catalog their dreams as prophecy and direction. So then following that, it's a direct line from the Chaldeans to the Egyptians. In early, like 2000 BC, the Egyptians were recording their dreams on papyrus leaves, writing them down. We think that dream dictionaries and dream journals are kind of avant-garde. Well, they were doing it 2000 BC. And they believed that their dreams, they served as oracles, as messages from the gods. And this is a recurring theme, that dreams could be prophetic or messages from a higher source.
Why do we dream, Vaughn?
Why do we dream? I think I think it is our inner soul, our spirit, or as I prefer to say, our spirit is coming out and it's exploring its identity. And it does this in a number of ways. It leaves the body, it travels beyond time and space in a dream or otherwise to further understand itself and who it is and its role. I think our spirit is trying to understand its connection to higher source of consciousness. I think this is, when people talk about higher consciousness, I don't think that our inner consciousness is particularly high unless it's aligned with higher universal cosmic consciousness. But I think that's what we do. I think our inner spirit longs to be free and longs to get outside of us. And what prevents this from happening when dreams are less than a dream is that your physical brain will act as a gatekeeper. and saying, "Oh no, no, nothing gets by me. I'm in total charge here. We don't allow anybody to leave. We don't allow anybody to come in. There's no traveling around. None of this is going to happen. There's going to be no spirits slipping in and slipping out. There's going to be no exotic travel and discovery. We're going to play it safe, mister. Play it real safe." And this is exactly what your physical brain is supposed to do in regard to safeguarding your physical body. It's in charge of your physical safety and your well-being, but it absolutely needs to step aside. So, like in the Hindu tradition, they talk about in meditation for consciousness to come forth and to have these great moments of spirit discovery, that the mind must be the slayer of the mind. And I think that's kind of I'm not saying it's a misinterpretation of what was said, but it's an example of how words don't really convey what's happening. There has to be an inner harmony where your physical brain and body allows itself to kind of, go to a rest mode so that your spirit can go out and explore. This idea of dream travel and discovery and lucid dreaming is important dream work, and it should be undertaken by everybody. It should be planned out as the Egyptians and the Greeks did with dream temples. I mean, they had dream temples. They had oracles. They had Morpheus, the god of dreams. They had Hippocrates leading the charge. Aristotle saying that dreams could predict and diagnose. Cicero in early Rome saying that dreams are produced by human conscious thought and result in visions of an insightful nature. And around the world, the Tibetans, in early China, that half of the soul is freed from the body during sleep to visit a dream realm. And now we'd call this perhaps a dreamscape, right? But I would say that in your dream, your spirit could take you anywhere on this earth or beyond.
Well, what can we actually learn from our dreams? And do all dreams have lessons that we should learn how to pay attention to?
Yeah, absolutely. The thing about a dream work is that you need to be very observant. You're not going to be a participant in the sense that you're going to have meaningful discussion. You'll have, and if you have any discussion in a lucid dream, it's likely to be telepathic, not verbal. If it's verbal, it's like there are loud thoughts in your head that resonate, but they're not going to be auditory. See, you don't have hands, you don't have feet, you don't have a tongue. All of this, the five physical senses are gone, and you're out there with a new array of conscious awareness.
Yes.
And your perceptive awareness is what's going to take you forward. And it's like being, as I say, people are fascinated with remote viewing. This is exactly what we're talking about. It's like being a fly on the wall. And remember, a fly has like 100 eyes, right? A fly sees all and knows all, and is very aware of everything. So, in short, I think that a lucid dream or dream work is an opportunity to observe and witness and take it all in. This is what the shamans would do, right? I mean, in dream walking, in spirit walking, the shaman would go into this deep trance, which is much like a lucid dreaming or meditation. And anyway, the shaman would leave and go beyond normal time and space. You can go back and talk to the ancestors or listen to the ancestors. Actually, go go forward in time to see what future holds for his people, and would teach these skills to people as Vision Quest.
But I've often wondered, Vaughn, if this is when a shaman is doing a Vision Quest, going back in time or forward in time, if this is not something that he is creating in his own subconscious.
Yeah, and then you have to wonder what's the difference, and you could lose sleep tonight thinking about that. But
I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, how do we know that he is really actually going back in time or going forward in time, and that it's just not based on his belief, his desires, and it has nothing to do with time, space, and anything else except what he is creating in his own mind.
Well, except that he would seem to go back and recognize ancestors.
Okay.
And listen to them speaking, and they would be known to him. But I would throw this in too. I mean, your argument is a good one, Rob. That we do create our own reality, and our vision of the past, my past, your past, real as they seem to us, we're trying to recreate it, not fully recognizing what it is. Because I mean, remember, a priori knowledge, and how few of us ever come into the world with that.
Right.
Yeah, and how sad that is. That we don't all have this recollection that some seem to do, with unerring, detailed accounts of everything, to where they could like recite a language or remember people or lines of a poem or how to play the piano, having never been taught in this lifetime. But I think that we're trying to get back to a memory, and so we're going in our consciousness, and our inner consciousness, it has a memory too. It has a memory of not only what's transpired during this physical life of ours, but presumably of an earlier life, of a past, and presumably it has some information beyond us, as we tend to think of spirit as guiding us with insight that is not known to us otherwise. So if this were true, then it would have to have a lot of memory bank, huge memory bank, and it probably doesn't come as it goes buffeted through this world and being born in the trauma of this life.
But isn't that what people
total recall?
But isn't that what people are saying that the Akashic records are for?
Oh yeah, well, that the Akashic records are a history of everything,
right?
Yeah. See, so I mean, the Akashic records exist on one level, on an astral level, one of the astral levels, and they are a record of, well, histories, yeah, but moreover, they're a record of like, I would call them more like tendencies or likelihoods or probabilities.
Vaughn, stand by. We've got to take our break. Exonation. Yep. Vaughn Braschler is my special guest this hour. We're talking about dreams, time travel, and much more. If you'd like to find out more information about Vaughn Braschler, he has a Facebook page, and we'll be back on the other side of this very short break as the X Zone continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our broadcast centers and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, streaming around the world on classic1220.ca. Don't go away. I'm Rob McConnell, and welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Today on the X Zone, what is the Star of Bethlehem? Who would ever have thought that the Rosetta Stone to the identity of the Star of Bethlehem would have been found on an ancient Roman coin that was purchased in the spring of 1991 by astronomer and coin collector Dr. Michael Molnar. Upon examining his newly acquired coin, Dr. Molnar noticed that the inscription of the coin was actually telling an astrological story about the Star of Bethlehem. Using his facilities at Reuters University and the philosophy of astrology, Dr. Molnar was able to identify the Star of Bethlehem as a rare planetary alignment of the planet Jupiter, being in the house of Aries on April the 17th, 6 BC, the birth date of Jesus Christ. These findings were supported by additional findings as well.
If you could read my mind, love, what a tale my thoughts could tell. Just like an old wishing well in a castle dark or a fortress strong with chains upon my feet. You know that ghost is me, and I will never be set free as long as I'm a ghost you can't see.
Welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. We're coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, streaming worldwide at classic1220.ca. Vaughn Braschler is our special guest this hour. And Vaughn, in your opinion, do those who have passed come to us in dreams?
Yes, I think they do, but I think there's a window for most of them. It's like the first 3 days after their passing.
Mm-hmm.
And many people will. There's a lot of accounts of people. I've interviewed people for another book, how this will happen so close to the death of the loved one, and they'll come and they'll see something revealing, and it'll be like a goodbye, really. And I think it's important to not try to access or contact the dead as they have to move forward in their own, existence. If you believe that there's life after this life, and as I do, and then, but if they come to you, you see, that's a whole other matter. If they come to you and they want to have a moment with you for whatever reason, maybe just to sit with you and for a moment, or
Sure.
maybe say something, I think it's wonderful. It's just wonderful.
Have you yourself had experiences in the paranormal? For example, have you seen ghosts?
Yeah.
You have. Let's hear. Could you share some?
So, I guess my biggest one has to do with the woman that was my roommate, and she ended up in hospice and died young. But there's a happy ending. That's all I'll get to. It starts years before, when I was working at the Theosophical headquarters of in Wheaton, Illinois, national headquarters, and I hadn't been there very long, and I'd taken over in the publishing house from a man that had kind of started the publishing division, and I started getting these calls the first summer I was there. And they, and this is before cell phones. That's important to know. And the rotary phone rings on my desk, and I pick it up. And clear as could be, I hear a man who sounds very old and very, very much like an elderly man from India, an East Indian. And he is asking me if I would like to join him on a lightning tour of India in the fall. And I said, in the fall? And he said, yes, autumn is the best time, sir. He said, I would do this in late August or early September. He said, as soon as I get my group together, I do this every year. And it is very profound. It would change your life. I would show you things that would change your life. And I said, well, sir, I'm very flattered. And why did you ask me? And he just talks over me, doesn't really respond to me. He says, you must come with me, sir. He said, I have selected you to come on this tour of India with me this fall. My lightning rod tour of India. And he said, well, think about it. I said, well, I'm very busy. I just started this job, and we're doing so many fun things here. And we'd started a radio series and a new magazine and all kinds of fun things. And I said, I just can't do it. I can't get back up and go. And he kept, not hearing that. He says, you must come with me. I will call you again, sir. And the line goes dead. Now, okay, so I get another call like this, I don't know, a few days later, maybe a week. And he says basically the same thing. And I'm saying, I can't go with you. I'm very sorry. I don't know why you called. You must have been trying to reach Mr. Pedersen, who had this job for many decades before me. And I don't know why you called me. And he said, no. He said, you must come with me on my lightning tour of India. And he goes on to explain how important it is. And the line goes dead. His voice is very clear. and I can understand him very well, even though he sounds very old and has a very thick accent. And I'm thinking like, oh, is somebody in our society, and maybe because it's an international group, somebody in India, and I ask around, is there anybody like that? No. So I go to the other building. So we're in the publication building, and the gal that does the switchboard, I said, did you switch a guy over here? Had a thick Indian accent, sounded very, very old. It happened like just minutes ago and then like a week ago. No. He must have dialed you directly, Vaughn. I'd remember anything like that. And I started asking different people, in both buildings, I thought I was being played, it was a setup, a joke. No, they all looked at me like I was crazy when I started asking these questions. So I get a third call, and it's the man again, and he says, if you can't come with me on my lightning rod tour of India, I will give you one other thing that will change your life forever, sir. I will teach you how to move in the light. I said, move in the light. He said, if you learned to meditate in the early morning light when the sun first rises, beside running water, he said, you can be in the light, and you can move in the light. You can become one with the light. And I said, well, you're talking about meditation, right? And it's like, I'm thinking like I have a big blanket and we have a pond in the back with a aerated pond. And I'm thinking how I could do this. He doesn't seem to recognize anything I'm saying. And he just talks over me. He says, you must learn to meditate in the early light, in the early morning light beside running water. And this will change your life forever, sir. He said, believe me. And he never calls again. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh. So I get out this blanket, this yellow blanket somebody gave me, and I laid it out next to the pond in the back of our grounds there, and beside the water. And it's incredible. It's incredible to do this, to meditate in early morning light. A profound experience meditating like that. And I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, who is this guy? So I get to thinking like, we're on the third floor, and on the first floor is a bookstore called Quest Books. And I go down there, I talk to the woman who's the manager, and I said, where are the good books on meditation? She said, what do you mean, Vaughn, the good books on meditation? I said, I mean the ones written by the men in India, the masters, the really good stuff. Not the new gurus, the new stuff. Where are the legitimate teachers? She said, oh, down that row. So I walked down that row, and it's like a dead end. It's like, and there's a book face out, and I picked it up, and I flipped it over, and I started reading the back, and it talked about this old man from India that would lead people on a lightning rod tour of India every year in the autumn months. And he would do this every year for many, many years. It was a tradition. And they said he was perhaps best known by his many students through the years as teaching a technique of meditating in the morning light beside water.
Fascinating.
And then it said the year he was born, and it listed the year he had died. It was 2 years before he called me.
Talk about getting a call from the other side.
So
Wow.
I actually played with that a lot, and later on I moved to Minnesota, and I had a roommate who had a scare with brain cancer.
Oh gosh!
But she'd recovered, and she'd been written up in books with as an amazing recovery example. She said it was because her cat sat on her and purred, but she was given up as dead, and then she made this spontaneous recovery, and she went on the radio and everything for a while, and so she came to live with me, and then she got very, very sick. We held a meeting at her house and tried to encourage her to go to an intervention, I guess you call it, encourage her to go in for testing. And yes, it had come back. and the cancer had spread throughout all her brain.
Oh, jeez.
The operator, they couldn't get it, and she had to go into hospice. So I taught her when she was in hospice how to meditate in the early morning light beside water. How did I do that? There was a window that came through the hospice, and it would, if I could move the bed a little to the right and a little bit forward, the light would shine on her from the window. And then I had this little thing I put on the desk next to her bed that created running water. And we did that, and we practiced this. We practiced actually leaving our bodies together in a meditation, and going through different levels. I mean, different subtle energy levels, and it was really incredible. I mean, we so many of us think our world is this physical world. But beyond the physical plane, there are other planes of existence. There's the mental plane, the astral plane. There are many planes of existence, and we explored all of those. And I took her up pretty far, up to a spiritual level, and the color started getting very blue, and everything changed. And I came back, and at that time she no longer had the ability to speak, but she would do these exercises with me. And I said, Deb, I said, I think you could go on your own now. I can't take you where you need to go next, but I think you can do it yourself. Don't you? And she squeezed my hand really tight, and she looked me right square in the eyes and said the first word she'd said in weeks. She said, yes.
Oh, my gosh.
Next morning she died. And when I went home after she died, there she was, playing with her cat. Now, I thought, okay. So then she went upstairs, and then there was music in the room.
Okay, now hold on here. She was dead.
Yeah.
But she was at your house, and she walked upstairs to the... Okay, I'm just
wanting to make sure. She was. I remember she was playing with her cat that she claimed had been so helpful in reviving her the first time. And old wizard, she was playing with him with a pink ribbon, and I'd never seen this pink ribbon before. But after she finished playing, she dropped the ribbon, and it curled as ribbons will do, and fell in this wicker basket. And I went, and after she went up the stairs, I went to the basket and I found the pink ribbon. I said, I've never seen this pink ribbon before.
Stand by, Vaughn. We're going to have to take a bit of a cliffhanger here. X Zone Nation. Vaughn Braschler's our guest. His Facebook page is, I just had it here a second ago, facebook.com/The Braschler. And we'll come back talking about more of this fascinating information, the consciousness, the light, as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, on your hometown radio, Classic 1220.
My thoughts could tell, just like an old-time movie.
I'm dreaming tonight.
This is Nick Pope here from nickpope.net. I'd like to wish Rob McConnell, everyone at the X Zone radio show, and all your listeners a very happy Christmas. And I wish you every happiness in 2006.
It's a long road back, I promise you. It's amazing how you can speak right to my heart. Without saying a word, you can light up the dark. Try as I may, I can never explain what I hear when you don't say a thing. The smile on your face lets me know that
Vaughn Braschler is our special guest of this hour, X Zone Nation. His Facebook page is facebook.com/The Braschler. And we're coming to you right here on this frequency 1220 from our broadcast station and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, on your hometown classic 1220 and streamed around the world on classic1220.ca. All right, that story that you told us before we went to the break, Vaughn, it was hard to believe.
Yeah, it is a little hard to believe.
No, I'm not. No, I'd like to preface this by saying it's not that I don't believe you.
Well, yeah, there are a lot of people. There were a lot of moving parts in this, and
Yeah.
she had a group of people. We tried very, very hard to do hospice at home, these were the people who actually were part of the intervention that got her into the hospital for the testing. Now, how it came back that at the age of 33 she was going to die after going through an 8-year recovery and having had cancer for 7 years. It's like I can't figure this out. But the way she died was, I honestly felt that having learned to do this kind of meditation with her, which was kind of directed by the man who gave me these mysterious phone calls years earlier, had a part in her ability to walk freely out of that place. And I kept telling the woman who was in charge of the hospice, it was run by a Catholic order, and Sister Luke was the head nurse and the head nun. And I told Sister Luke, I said, Deb's going to walk out of here. She said, Vaughn, nobody walks out of here. Nobody. I said, Deb will. And I honestly think she did. I think that she's a free person. And my takeaway from this is that everybody needs to learn conscious living and conscious dying, because if your consciousness is really at a high level in touch with universal consciousness, if you're really highly conscious when you die, then you'll die a conscious death, and it won't be a sudden scary thing, like we read in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the horrors that people go through because they're not ready to die. Well, that's how we get ghosts. I mean, I was a ghost hunter for a while, and it's a terrible thing to encounter people who are so scared or so confused or so holding on to life when they die that they can't move forward. But to be ready to actually get up and walk out, because I told Deb again and again, the fact that you don't have the ability to stand on your feet and walk out of here does not mean that you can't walk out of here. And I honestly think that she could, because when she dropped that pink ribbon in the basket and went upstairs, and I heard the music coming out of the room, and I got to thinking, like, should I go in there and see her? So I went in there, and the room was empty, because what I'd forgotten was that all of her things had been removed by her parents, because they knew she was going to die. There was no stereo. There was no bed. There was nothing there. Yet I heard the music, and the music stopped when I turned the doorknob and walked inside. Now, I went out in the hallway, and there was a little closet where she, I don't know, she kept towels there. And I got to thinking, like, gosh, did they get it all, And I went in the hallway. They did get all the towels and everything, but there was a box of pink ribbons that she had been working on before she went into hospice, had been working on to make as Christmas presents for people.
Oh gosh.
I'd never seen that before. That was a secret thing, a secret basket. Nobody knew that. And so I think it was an eye-opener for me, and now I think about life, and I think about death, and I think that death isn't what people think it is, and I think that the life isn't what people think it is. It's like we're not fully awake people, we're sleepwalking through life, and when we die, we're confused. Well, I think it, if we do proper dream work, if we learn to meditate, if we attune our consciousness and become more aware of everything around us, including why we're here and what we should be doing in our life, then I think things are gonna work out better for us. For one thing, we're going to die with a purpose, and that purpose will be to continue our evolution as souls. Because I think that it's just a continual merry-go-round of people coming here, riding around the merry-go-round, and having a wonderful time riding the wooden horse that's on that carousel, and the music stops, and we call that the end. But there is no end. The music starts again, and you go to another horse, and you continue going around the carousel.
So is this all part of reincarnation?
Reincarnation, absolutely. It's a never-ending cycle. It'll never, ever end. Never.
So if it never ends, Vaughn, where did it start? Hello?
Yeah, I think it started with consciousness, actually. I think there are two things that bring life into motion, and that is consciousness and light. And I think, in the Hindu philosophy, they call that Shakti and Shiva. And when consciousness and light come together, when light reaches consciousness, that is reality. And that is our reality. And that's why we're here. I mean, we're here to allow our consciousness to experience this life in different manifestations, in different scenarios, so that it has some greater meaning to the universal flow, the continuum of life, if you will, that is universal consciousness.
So am I to understand that each and every person who comes to this planet, this plane, is supposed to learn something, gather information that is fed to the universe?
That's what I think, Rob. I mean, just one guy's opinion. Yeah. But to me, this is a big Easter egg hunt. I mean, it's like everybody is on a discovery mission in this life to find out things. It's all about discovery. Discovery is everything. And ask me what we're supposed to discover. I think it's different for every one of us.
But if all this information is going back to the universe, why do we need to keep on reliving it or experiencing new scenarios when all this information that has been already submitted back to the universe by millions upon millions upon millions of souls?
But see, there is no end. That's like, we tend to think in terms that are linear, a beginning, a middle, and end. It's ongoing. It continues to unfold and evolve. It'll continue to evolve forever and ever. There's no beginning. There's no end.
But it seems at times that we are here as puppets, as collectors for unseen masters.
So back to the Akashic Records. I know that a lot of people want to think of the Akashic Records as the place where you can go. I always think of like the movie Rollerball, Yeah. And Jonathan goes and he wants to look in the Hall of Records and find out what's going on. What's going on? And, it's like we'd all like to just go and here's my library card now. Tell me what's going on. But, it's not that easy, because there are so many variables in how things unfold. I mean, it's true, as Einstein suggested, that the past, present, and future are all happening simultaneously. It is highly likely that they're all progressing, and that yesterday has not ended, and tomorrow is already here. But we're only experiencing this moment where we're standing right now, and we only experience what we see in front of us. That's our limitation, So we have to actually live out every scenario. There are so many variables, and there's so many ripples in everybody's life that'll impact other lives.
Yeah.
So you can't say that everything is prescripted. It's impossible to prescript anything. So there are only energy tendencies. It's like at this moment in time, it looks like it's going to happen this way. I always think of people that they are so slavishly dependent on following their numerology charts or their astrology charts. But there are so many things that will will affect these things. And you can do the tarot cards, and this shows you how things seem to be going right now. But it could all change tomorrow, and it could change by what you do and what your neighbor does.
Yeah, but I found that a lot of the tarot card readings, the tea leaf readings, the astrology, the numerology, is based on the way that the reader is interpreting the information. You get
Sure.
two people with the same spread of tarot cards or the same numerological sequence, and you're going to get different answers.
Reader bias, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, reader bias. Well, that happens with everything. Any kind of divination, like gazing.
Yeah.
You and I could look at the sky and do sky gazing. We'd see different things.
Sure. It's perception.
Which is wrong. I don't know.
Vaughn, we've got about a minute before I have to say so long to you. What is your final words of wisdom to the listening audience of the X Zone Nation tonight on Classic 1220?
Hey, gang, keep up the journey. The journey is everything. We're all on a journey to Oz, and it might seem like a dream at the end when you wake up and Annie M shakes you and says, "Honey, it was only a dream," but we're all going to get to Oz. I think that every one of us is on a journey.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important that we prepare for the journey. That you pack just a little bit more than the fool who goes off on the journey with that knapsack and the tarot card, and really embrace the journey. Don't be afraid of the obstacles that are out there. The supernatural allies and enemies and the gatekeepers that make your hero's journey difficult. Your journey is a journey of a hero.
Vaughn, thank you so much for joining us. I look forward to the next time you meet us back here in the X Zone. Until then, take care of yourself, and to you and yours, the very best of the season.
Thank you, sir.
Good night, Vaughn. X Zone Nation, my guest this hour has been Vaughn Braschler on Facebook.com/V Braschler. He's got a number of books. Very interesting man. I call him a philosopher. Philosopher of the unknown. I'll be back tomorrow night at, 11 o'clock Eastern, as once again we continue our quest into the searching for answers demanding of truth in the world of parapsychology and paranormal. So until then, my friends, I am Rob McConnell. Keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light, and keep your radios tuned to Your Town Radio Classic 1220.